There are moments in science when the universe whispers something so strange, so utterly beyond expectation, that it silences even the most skeptical minds. 3 Atlas is one of those whispers. Across the deserts of Chile, the frozen peaks of Hawaii, and the silent domes of the European Southern Observatory, astronomers speak its name with equal parts awe and fear. On the surface, it is merely the third confirmed interstellar visitor, a fragment of something born between the stars now wandering through our solar system. But the deeper we look, the more the word object feels inadequate. Because 3I Atlas is doing something no natural body should be able to do. When NASA first announced its discovery, the tone was casual, almost bored. Another icy relic, another data point for our cosmic census. But within weeks, that tone evaporated. The data arriving from telescopes and radar arrays began to whisper. A single heretical idea. This thing is not behaving like a comet. Its trajectory curved where it should have stayed straight. Its speed fluctuated when it should have been constant. In the precise language of physics, it was impossible. Now, behind closed doors, in quiet meetings where recording devices are forbidden, astrophysicists are using phrases they once mocked. Unnatural motion, deliberate trajectory, non-gravitational behavior. Even NASA's internal memoranda have grown cautious, guarded, stripped of certainty. Something out there, a city-sized object forged between the stars, has entered our solar system, and it refuses to obey the laws of nature. It drifts where it should accelerate. It rotates with mathematical perfection, and it glows in colors no chemistry can explain. Perhaps it is nothing. Perhaps it is everything. But tonight, as telescopes track its eerie, slow spiral toward the sun, one question hangs heavy across the scientific world. What if this is not an object at all, but a visitor? Physics at its core is a language of predictability. Every orbit, every motion of dust and stone follows equations written in the grammar of gravity and light. But when 3 Atlas appeared on the radar arrays of the Pan-STARRS survey, those equations began to stutter. At first, the signals were faint, nothing more than a distant shifting pixel. Yet when the Deep Space Network began to track it precisely, the numbers whispered something unthinkable. The object was slowing down. This was not a random fluctuation. It was systematic, measurable, and continuous. A micro-deceleration so gentle, yet so deliberate that even the most conservative astrophysicists could not ignore it. Comets don't slow down. They speed up as sunlight vaporizes their icy cores, releasing jets that push them outward. Solar radiation never pulls. It always pushes. And gravity at those distances is far too weak to matter. So what, then, was Atlas responding to? When NASA's Goldstone Observatory confirmed the data, the tone inside Mission Control changed overnight. Reports that once spoke of anomalies began using more cautious phrasing, motion inconsistent with known natural processes. By August, a quiet panic had begun. Atlas's velocity was no longer following Newton, Einstein, or any known physical model. Instead, it fluctuated in pulses, decelerating in rhythm with its rotation period, as if the object itself were thinking, performing subtle course corrections unseen in any comet, asteroid, or probe. To a physicist, such precision feels almost personal. It suggests feedback, control, intention. Something out there is manipulating momentum, not through rockets or visible exhaust, but perhaps by exploiting gravitational or electromagnetic forces in ways our civilization has only begun to imagine. If that is true, then 3I Atlas is not merely a traveler. It is a navigator. And yet, even as the data mounts, disbelief lingers. No scientist wants to be the first to say it aloud, because to admit the truth, that a city-sized body from another star system is maneuvering with purpose, would mean rewriting our understanding of the cosmos itself. In the quiet corridors of NASA and the European Space Agency, the question now circulates in whispers, rather than words. What kind of intelligence could command the stars themselves to yield? In the language of celestial mechanics, nature does not improvise. Every motion of rock and ice, every orbit and ejection follows the clean logic of gravity. But 3i Atlas has broken that rule, and in doing so, it has unsettled the very foundations of astrophysics. By late August, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed what the early radar data had only hinted. The object's velocity had changed by 0.28 kilometers per second, not by accident, but in discrete pulses synchronized with its rotation cycle. Imagine a spinning top in the void adjusting its speed with clockwork precision. Each adjustment perfectly timed, perfectly measured. That is not chaos. That is choreography. Inside NASA, the mood shifted from curiosity to quiet disbelief. Engineers checked every possible explanation. Instrumental error, thermal radiation bias, even micrometeoroid impact. Each hypothesis crumbled. The velocity shifts were too regular, too deliberate. When the same data appeared in independent readings from the European Space Agency's Gaia and the Hubble Space Telescope, the verdict became unavoidable. Atlas was performing maneuvers. In physics, that phrase should not exist. Nothing without engines or propulsion should choose a path. Yet the telemetry was unambiguous. It was as if the object were gently applying thrust, decelerating as if aware of its surroundings. A cosmic stone that thinks. Within JPL's internal briefings, the language grew cautious, almost philosophical. One line later leaked read, "Observed motion inconsistent with known natural processes." In science, those words are an alarm bell. They mean the equations no longer hold, that something outside our model of the universe has intruded upon it. So what could possibly explain this precision? Could Atlas be exploiting forces we barely understand? Gravitational eddies, electromagnetic gradients, or even quantum effects at macroscopic scales? Or are we witnessing the actions of a machine, ancient and autonomous, performing instructions written long before humanity learned to walk upright? When I teach my students about cosmic scale, I remind them, in the vacuum of space, even a whisper of control implies mastery. If 3 Atlas can alter its trajectory with such elegance, then it is not a relic. It is a vessel, and perhaps, for the first time in human history, we are not watching a rock wander through the stars. We are watching something pilot itself. As September approached, something even more unsettling happened. 3A Atlas began to change its brightness, not in the random flickering way that comets brighten when they shed dust, but in a pattern. A rise, a fall, a rise, a fall, like a pulse, like a signal. Astronomers at the European Southern Observatory plotted the fluctuations and found a rhythm, precise to the 10th decimal. Nothing in space behaves like that. Light does not beat with intention. Yet Atlas did. Some believed this was nothing more than volatile gases reacting to solar heating. But the pattern remained constant even as Atlas moved farther from the sun. No thermal process could maintain that stability. This was modulation, controlled, stable, deliberate, a whisper in the dark. Then the most astonishing observation of all emerged. As Atlas turned in its rotation, its tail, the luminous stream of dust and ions, began pointing not away from the sun, but toward it. For weeks, the tail defied every known physical law of radiation pressure. The sun pushes everything outward. That is one of the universe's simplest truths. And yet here, the universe was, quietly breaking it. The tail was aligning with something we could not see, something exerting force not from the sun, but from Atlas itself. There are only 2 explanations for such behavior. Either it carries a magnetic field unlike anything known in nature, or the tail is being shaped by artificial influence, perhaps a controlled ion stream, a method of propulsion invisible to our eyes but undeniable in its effect. No scientist wants to be the first to say the word engine. Yet the silence around 3 Atlas is starting to feel heavier than speech. Around conference tables and encrypted communication channels, one thought grows louder and harder to ignore. If this object is under intelligent control, then we are not witnessing a coincidence of cosmic drifting. We are witnessing arrival, not in the cinematic way of bright lights and thunder, but in the quiet, patient way an ancient traveler would approach a distant shore after crossing an endless ocean. Slow, precise, intentional. The question is not whether it is coming closer. The question is why. And somewhere in that widening silence, humanity waits. Not with fear alone, but with an ancient, unspoken recognition that we may not be alone, and that whatever shaped Atlas into motion has crossed the stars before we ever learned how to look up.